Anyway, our next presenter, first data job was he was a human intel analyst for the military. Served two tours of duty, one in Iraq and one in Somalia, so a veteran, so we definitely thank him for that. And the fun fact, which I thought was really cool, particularly because I'm a coffee drinker, is he's a master roaster. And he actually has his own company, Tame Rabbit, so you can look at it, tamerabbit.com. So very pleased to bring up our next presenter, Tim Leonard, to power us through the final presentation. Tim? All right, there you go.
Yeah, appreciate that. Well, I got to tell you, I gave LeBron a call before he came out, and I said, listen, LeBron, I have a chance to bring home a trophy that I know that we can bring back to Cleveland. And so Hortonworks presented us the Innovative of the Year award, so we let you guys have the trophy here. So just make sure, NBA trophy versus Data Summit award, we took that. So I'm going to cover a great topic. As a customer of Hortonworks, one of the best things I have is to be able to talk a little bit about success stories. This is a success story that I'm going to present to you guys that enabled us to look at something that we had thought was, and I tried not to use disruption, so I apologize if it sneaks it in there. So when we set out for TMW Systems, which is the largest ERP carrier, transportation ERP system in the industry today, TMW has the ERP system, has well over 4,000 carriers, trucking carriers. Hopefully you see a correlation between what George presented and what you're seeing here. A lot of the same technology got play inside of TMW. We also have Appian, which is a route optimization capability and the largest data lake in transportation today. So what I'm going to talk about was the abilities to actually look at trucking. Trucking is unique in a way that it was a very fragmented industry. There's a lot of different scenarios within trucking that we felt we wanted to provide an opportunity to evolve the business. And one of the things that on the evolution part of the trucking transportation, we started looking at the data. We started collecting it from thousands of our carriers to bring it in and kind of look at different avenues of approach. What you see up there is the domain expertise, the freight volume, pricing advantages. Those were things that made trucking companies very successful. However, on the flip side, we looked at opportunities to solve a problem around a very little market-wide data availability. People couldn't see the entire market, whether it's in North America, Europe, Australia. TMW expanded the globe. The other thing was every single fleet that was out there had secret sauce. They had their own special way of analyzing data, doing route optimization. And the last point is it seemed like the people who never owned the assets in trucking had the best data points. What started coming out of the data, however, is, as most of you don't know or know, the trucking industry is really unique. It's unique in a way that 95% of the trucking industry is actually the small carriers, 50 or less. And really only 5% of the entire industry is there. And so the daunting deficit of data available to the small carriers was tremendous. So the primary thing that we wanted to look at was what's causing these small carriers problems, and then what evolutional component could we evolve into this industry. And you can see the thing is, they were guessing at price points. They would guess at data things to pick up freight, move the freight, what's inside the freight, the ability to hit the best route going through, whether using ALK or Appian. So the low pricing capabilities was there. So the other thing that we notice is that no matter what freight you're in or what size fleet that you're in, the data anomalies were always the same. Things around miles, the weight of the vehicles, different maintenance capabilities. We have a great maintenance system that we can check all the parts, the capabilities off that. So as we're looking at that, we also notice that the lanes within the system. So we had this great hypothesis. We then started working with Hortonworks. I had just left General Motors, working on the big data strategy. Before that, I was at Dell. And so looking at the various techniques out there, I knew that who I wanted to partner up with was Hortonworks. So I sat down with some of their experts. George certainly is one of them. And we started looking at what's the value of the data pieces? What are the things that are most important to us? Once again, the evolution piece of this thing came into play. What came out of it was something entirely different. One of the things that we came out was the revolutionary pieces of the data, what it showed us. The things that it showed us is TMW had a unique position in the field to create what's called a market rate index. The abilities for everybody, whether you're small, large, or medium, to have a central location to come to be able to compare capabilities. So we looked at things like the national rate index off of historical points, fuel surcharges, maintenance costs, every type of possible condition that you could look at in terms of all the freights and all the fleets that were out there. And why was that important? So as we're starting to look at why that is so important is the small businesses were starting to go out at a fast rate. So our first thing was to work with Hortonworks and actually put in what we call a data visualization capability to take data that we have from all this information, whether it was their ERP systems, their telematics, their business intelligence tools, and actually create a customized low end in the cloud utilizing an Azure environment. What was so unique about this is the technical pieces around this, and I'll talk a little bit since I have a breakout class tomorrow around the hive conditions, actually started looking at our experts within our data field actually would create over 30 different star schema designs. And so we invented what's called wide table analytics. We no longer put out star schema capabilities. With the Hadoop structure and the hive configuration, we actually put in wide table analytics that enable you to ask not the questions, the what if questions, but the what are questions, the abilities to fill the gap around there in a low-cost structure, tenant capabilities, utilizing Knox, Ranger to be able to do the security module, and then the product around Atlas that enabled us to do the governance pieces of it. So that was our first implementation. So what quickly evolved is we now have close to 400 to 450 carriers inside of the market rate index. And you may say, well, that's a low number. That's close to 750,000 cabs, trucks that are on the road today. The other aspect of it is that the abilities to partner within Trimble bought TMW, within that is actually start evolving our technology with our telematics provider, which is PeopleNet. So the combination of the abilities to get into our customers, actually solve it for the small businesses, is we actually started getting into a better data science capability. So we started playing a little bit around, as George had talked about, in terms of the streaming processes on real-time capabilities, but more importantly, the Spark machine learning libraries. So as we started evolving around the machine learning libraries, we started knowing anomalies around the finance areas, which we control in the back office, the fuel. Inside of trucking today, if you could save a small carrier 2 to 3 cents, even if they're idling their truck, it literally moves their operating income by several points. So those are the things that we knew that by creating this market rate index, this data lake that is now become the largest in transportation, we can actually pull in at any type of data source. Here's the thing that most people don't know about. So yes, TMW has the relationship with the carriers. We can pull from the trucks themselves, the sensor data. But we didn't stop there. So with Trimble's help, farming data, agriculture data, geospacing data, sensor data in the roads. Every DOT has shared data that's out there. So we started pulling all that data in to actually help and look at all the pieces of questions that we weren't asking. So the last step that we had looked at was, okay, that still wasn't enough. Something was here that we were missing. So we started working with some of the smaller carriers of the features around looking at the data that's available, feeding it in there, but what we came out with is the abilities to create a tenant structure model. So when you're looking at something like going to Atlanta and you're a small trucking company versus one of the big ones, you don't know if you're going to deadhead coming in. Most of the deadheading is as you're leaving the point that you dropped off freight, I'm not going to build any freight anymore. So in the history of transportation, deadheading existed mostly around the states. It wasn't down to the zip code level. So the first time ever, we are able to share with the small carriers the opportunities to actually deadhead in a certain region. And that enabled them to accept freight or not accept freight or adjust their rates as they're coming forward. So here's what I want to conclude with. So as we're looking at the evolution of helping individuals out, generating better revenue, looking at getting the best rate optimizations in terms of what they're going to go do, we quickly discovered that we're starting to change the industry. We quickly changed the industry around the small carriers. So through the data lake and through the work with Hortonworks and the opportunities to actually provide the examples, for example, that George shared this morning, we're actually able to give tools back into people that couldn't afford the tools at a low-cost structure. So now they're able to look at things like average rate, minimum rate, across the entire industry. So if you can imagine going into a portal, looking at 750,000 trucks across the United States and Canada, and actually understanding that if I go and try to penetrate into Dallas, Texas, what will my cost be around these particular things? Will my fuel charge be at a mile that I'm not willing to accept freight at a certain rate? Geographical levels in terms of trying to understand is what's the maintenance cost in order to accept that? So which gives them the abilities for a couple things. Negotiate better rate structures with the shippers. Shippers and the carriers are kind of like two confrontational disadvantages, advantages based on who you talk to. By marrying those two together, the carriers and the shippers, and providing data visibility to them, that's actually helped us grow the relationship and actually change it for the small players. Identify those lanes in a network that can easily bear a rate increase. That was really important. Nobody knows the structure around the rate opportunities. And so for the first time ever, not only can you see it with your own secret sauce, you now have the abilities in the data lake to go in there and log it and compare it to the industry itself. And a couple last ones, quote new business wins that weren't there before. So the opportunities to look at new rate opportunities, to look at the new rate structures, actually enabled people not only to say no to people that would just drive through home like a shipper, but also the abilities to kind of go into other markets, things around reefer, things around van, flatbed, and also other lines of business like intermodal, working with shipping companies or rail companies, which TMW looks at all shipping carriers. It doesn't make a difference, intermodal, rail systems. So those are the things is my rate beneficial for me? And then the last thing is reallocate internal resources to really work on profitable lanes. And that was key. So when you're looking at a small trucking company, Aunt Sally does the spreadsheet, Uncle George does the maintenance. So the abilities for a small trucking company with one person to be able to actually change his job thing and actually work on what makes that family's business more profitable was a huge win for us. So that enables us to actually come in, do the jobs that they were doing, and actually free them up to actually help generate money for the family. And this is what I want to conclude with. So most of us at TMW set out to evolve the existing data problem in the industry itself. What we came away with was a whole new factor. We revolutionized the way that we can make the level and playing fields for small carriers equal to the large carriers that are out there, the Amazons of the world that are trying to actually get back into the small pieces. So that was the benefit that we saw, and it actually enabled us to provide something that no one else has ever done. So thank you very much. Appreciate to be able to talk to you guys this morning. Have a more technical, in-depth on this on Thursday. And so I appreciate everybody, and thank you very much. Have a great day.